Well, good morning, Freedom Wranglers. We are so excited today because we have the one and only Haley Hunt here with us. And it's just an honor to have her be a part of Freedom Wranglers today. She is a singer, she is an influencer, an entrepreneur, and she's also the founder of the Verb Kind. And I mean, this woman has got some pretty good things, backing her up as to stats. Like she has a song and she's the very first and only unsigned artist to ever appear on EA's NFL Madden video game. Like, come on. She also won a competition where Ludacris chose your song for Serena Williams. We can go. She's sung at like 10 NFL games, the national anthem. She is a patriot at heart. And we can go through all the different accolades there, but she's also has an inspirational t-shirt company, YouTube channel. And then like this year alone, she was chosen out of 20, there were 23 women in Orlando that were chosen for Woman of the Year. And she was one of those women. And that's just such an honor. And it really all boils down to the Verb Kind, which you are the founder of. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you founded it in 2019. Is that right?
Yeah, the end of 2019.
2019. And what the Verb Kind is it's an organization that impacts the lives of incarcerated youths in 3 states right now, but who knows where it'll go. And those states are Florida, Alabama, and Tennessee. And their verse that backs them up is Matthew 25:36. I was in prison and you came to visit me. And gosh, there's just so many things that, we want to be able to highlight today. But, Haley, you and I talked the other day, and I just got little snippets of your story and your life. And when we were talking about like the music, at one time, that was going to be it. That was the dream, right?
It was going to be the dream. And yeah, when I was 16, I took off to Nashville I missed a lot of high school because I was pursuing music and I got a record deal at 16. I remember filming my first record or my first music video at 16 in Nashville with the Toby Mac people, and like Stacey Orico was out, and like, it won't tell you age me, but for sure, like Stacey Orico was like, Toby Mac had just started his record label, and I went up there and I was like literally with every Christian artist that you could ever imagine. And I was like, this is it. By the time I'm 17, it's over with, and I was leading worship with Francesca Battistelli. And
Wow.
all these people that were around me that I was growing up with were all pursuing either music or sports. Which is also what everybody wants to do when they're incarcerated. You ask the kids what they want to do, they either want to be an athlete or a rapper. So it was just ironic, like everybody that I knew was either a musician or an athlete. And then when I turned 18 and I was a senior in high school, I got voted most likely to become famous because everybody knew but I had done so many amazing things with music and stuff. And I pursued music and through my 20s. And then I turned 23 and I got married. Okay. So I got married and I was really excited being married. But as a, woman who believed in marriage and believed in order, I wanted to submit to what my husband's plan was, and he was a professional athlete, played in the NFL. And so I kind of like had to shift my focus to really just honor what God was doing in his life. So we traveled all over the country and we lived in San Diego and Cincinnati, and, we're going to play for the Vikings and all these things. And in between, I was trying to like find my purpose, which really it's okay to just be a wife sometimes, you know what I mean? But I felt like there was still a desire in my heart to do music and stuff. And so almost this and almost that. And, I would do fun things here and there. I sang, yes, I was on a song with Lecrae, and that was cool. And I thought, man, we're moving on up, and I would sing the national anthem randomly at NFL games, just for fun. And then I
As
definitely
you
did.
do, right? Like, oh, it's just for fun.
Yeah, just
It's
for,
just for
well,
fun. Let's do
I'm crazy because
national anthem.
it's the scariest opportunity you could ever have. Like, don't think it's fun to sing the national anthem at an NFL game. You're literally out there. And if you mess up, honey, okay, 60,000 people or more would boo you off this. They're probably not going to boo you, but everybody's cringing. So I would do that to challenge myself. And also because I love America, and it's my favorite part of the football game. I'm a football freak, but I will tell you the national anthem is like usually my favorite part. And so then when, I mean, one of the first years that I was married, I found out about this huge competition with Serena Williams and Ludacris. And I was like, shoot, my mother-in-law at the time, she looks like Serena Williams. She plays tennis. Her idol is Serena Williams. And I'm like, I'm about to win this competition and we're going to go meet Serena. And so we're in Birmingham in the off season, and I, get with my producer there. He was the producer for Ruben Studdard, because Ruben
Oh,
Studdard lived in Birmingham, the winner for
yeah.
American Idol, remember?
Yep.
And to write this song for Serena Williams, and we
Wow.
uploaded it to this website, and there were like thousands of submissions. And the song sounded like I'm in the club with Serena smoking blah blah blah, and I'm going, she's never going to pick this song. You know what I mean? They're like, make sure you get all your votes. I'm like, these people had thousands of votes, and I'm going, well, I only have like 200 votes, and I'm not telling anybody that I was really going to do this. I didn't really care. I just wanted to win the competition. And I said, if they go based on votes, I'm not winning. But if they go based on the value of the song, I'm winning this thing. Well, I won the freaking thing and get flown out to Cali, bring my mother-in-law. She gets to meet Serena
Oh,
Williams. It was
wow.
so cool.
What a
She's
gift. Wow.
Serena was like, the reason why I picked your song was because I literally felt like we were best friends. She's like, the way you wrote it was like, it was her name means peace. And it was so funky and soulful and all these things. And anyway, the point is, I was living in this high, and I was very distracted with music because I was also in pain with my marriage. We were in the NFL, and we were around a lot of hurting marriages, and we were also rescuing a lot of marriages. We spoke at marriage conferences. My in-laws are still to this day like one of the most sought after marriage conference speakers in the US, and they're unbelievable. I mean, so we had a standard. My grandparents have been married 74 years. And at the time, my parents had been married like 40 years. So I had the standard that what our marriage was supposed to look like, and there's a lot of adultery that was going on behind the scenes, and I would just suffocate keeping my pain in because I didn't want anyone to know that, in fact, we were drowning. We are the swim teacher that is actually not sure that we can go to the deep end. We have to stay in the shallow end because we actually are drowning ourselves. And so after 7 years, I turned 30, and I just gave him back to his parents. No, I'm kidding. I mean, it is what it is. I gave him the 90-day thing. He didn't want that. He chose himself again. And I just say, you know what, Lord, you're going to have to see me through. And so, I hope that this is okay that I'm telling you all of this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So then the next part of and I think the reason why this is so important for any listener is that my pursuit of one thing ended up being all these other things. But it brought me to today, which is a place of rest and contentment, which is the most amazing place you could ever be, because you are so busy trying to do the things. We're so addicted to busyness. Our to-do list is like, I worship my to-do list every day, right? And Martha and Mary, and Mary's like laying at Jesus's feet, and Martha's like, oh, I got to do this and this and this, and I got to call this person back, and oh my God, and my kids and my husband, and oh my God, and my job, and oh my God, I suck. And we're so obsessed, like, but why? Because Jesus is like, I didn't call you to do any of those stressful things. Like, I've called you to like be at my feet. That's where you find the purpose and the things that we're reaching for, So anyway, then the next season of my life was I was divorced, and I was wearing this big, huge D on my chest. I was so embarrassed that I was divorced, like Haley Hunt, freaking divorced. I can't believe it. I deleted my marriage blog. Like I quit everything because I was just so embarrassed. And this friend from high school said, hey, 2 years later, said, hey, my husband and I are the head of this really cool organization called Save the Storks. And Save the Storks is an organization that is a pro-woman organization, really giving women who are in crisis pregnancy a chance, a choice. And I said, well, I don't know why you called me, and she goes, well, because you were so amazing in high school, and I remember you, and we'd love for you to speak. And I said, well, I can't speak for you because, I have this secret that nobody knows and except my husband. And this was before we were married. And I was like, but I've had an abortion 12 years ago when I was 20.
Mm.
And I said, the church girl had an abortion, and I'm really sorry to disappoint you today. And she said, do you know one in three women sitting in a church pew are post-abortive, men or woman? Like man,
Mm-hmm.
like paying for an abortion is living in shame.
Mm-hmm.
And that fast forward, I ended up being radically set free from shame. And I went and spoke for this organization. But the craziest part about this whole entire thing is that they put me on a tour with a bunch of Christian artists. My dream, right? Like, remember high school? Like, I'm going to be on tour with all these people. But instead of Compassion International or like one of those,
Sure.
mid concert pitches, it was Haley Hunt. I didn't get to go out there and sing with my voice. I didn't get to blow them away with this, soulful, smoky vocal. I had to go out there and pitch freaking Save the Storks. But better than that, I had to share that God had radically set me free from shame, that I was the church girl that was living in shame from whatever. And do you know how many people would come up to me after? They didn't even remember the songs. They didn't even remember the music. They remembered the moment that God set them free during that. And I thought, it's funny. My dream did come true. I did want to go on tour, but it didn't look the way that I thought. And so I'm like literally on tour with all these famous Christian artists, and everybody asks what I do. And I'm supposed to be saying I'm a singer, but I'm not. I'm freaking the speaker of the tour. Like this embarrassing story. But God used it to set, 65-year-old men free, and women that have been married to a pastor for 30 years living in shame. You would not believe the people that God had used to touch. And so once again, the Lord had shown me, like, it's not your plan, it's mine. Like, it's better than you thought that it would be, and life isn't about you, Haley. Like, life is not about you being this beautiful, hot, like, successful singer, married, whatever. Like, I've got a plan for you. Just trust me,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. So at that moment in my life, I felt redemption, but I was still like, it was like I was walking in humility every day, realizing that God had a bigger plan, but I didn't really know what it was. And so now I have the D on my chest and the A on my chest for abortion. And I'm going like, I felt free from shame, but I still was like, I need my freaking redemption. Like, I need the Lord, like the pride, like we just feel like we deserve to, see something better. And so anyway, the next part of my life is that I came up with this really cool sports TV show called Jerseys and Heels. Long story short, I do this sizzle reel. I'm at 36 at the time, 35 at the time. And I decide to pitch this TV show. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but it was with pro athletes and their wives. And it was really cool. And I didn't know what was going to happen, but the Lord opened this huge door for me to get this huge production deal 4 years ago.
Wow.
And I got a production deal with the producers of Real Housewives, Undercover Boss, Cupcake Wars. I got flown out to LA, and I'm like in this corner office overlooking the Hollywood sign. Like, I'm seeing them edit Real Housewives episodes, and I can't believe this. We're actually picking the different networks that we're going to pitch this TV show to, and it's a sports TV show. It's so cool. So I'm like sitting there sipping Macallan 18, signing my contract, looking at the Hollywood sign, thinking, this is it. Like, oh my God. Like, after all the things that fell through, I went back to my childhood being like, all the record deals, and then all the times, that my husband had an affair, or like all the times I walked out on stage and I worshiped God and I gave him glory, like, and did put him first. Like, this is my redemption, and I was so happy. And this was in February, and May came, and all of a sudden I get a phone call. And they canceled the production deal out of the blue. We were in the middle of filming. We were signing contracts with athletes. Like, I was exposed to, like, everyone knew I was doing this, and which made it even harder. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, another failure, like another one. Like, you couldn't stay married. You couldn't get a freaking record deal. All your friends have made it, and you're here and you're 36 with no husband, no kids, no career, nothing. And I was back in Orlando, Florida, my hometown, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And randomly I get a invitation to the juvenile detention center jail. Now, let me just say, I've never had anybody like in my life be in jail. Like I'm not a part of like social justice clubs or anything like that. I mean, I have a passion for that, but it's never been something that I'm like associated with. So I was like, yeah, I'll go and hang out with kids in jail. And I walk in the first night ever and I have nail polish and cookies. And I knew I was going to meet some girls, and there were 22 girls looking at me. And I walk in the room and the first question they asked was, so what do you do? And I go, um, I'm a singer-songwriter, because like that's my identity, I'm a singer-songwriter. And they said, well, sing then. And the major's like, I hope she can sing, because these girls will literally boo her off the stage.
We'll eat you alive.
Eat me alive for sure. So I sing, they freaking love it. I pull out nail polish. I'm painting this girl's nails in 2019. And I say, why are you in jail? And she says, well, I'm a runaway. And I got arrested for running away. And I said, why did you run away? And she said, because there were some things going on at my house. My dad was letting his friends come over and take advantage of me. And at that moment, I realized that this little child, this little girl, was locked up, incarcerated. And of course, probably she has a bad attitude, or I don't know what the rest of her story is. But the point is that she is a child who needed hope that night. And so I came back the next night, and I came back the next week, and the next week, and the next week. And after an entire year of bringing my friends, and I mean, I met the boys and half of them had never had Chick-fil-A.
Wow.
Like, never had Chick-fil-A. Nah, there's not one in my neighborhood. I'm like, well, I'm going to get you Chick-fil-A. So the next week I'd bring Chick-fil-A, and they were like, oh my God, this is amazing, And after an entire year of doing some really cool stuff in the detention center, the state of Florida came to me and they said, hey, whatever you're doing in Orlando, we need you to do this in every county in Florida, which is hang out with incarcerated youth, and their behavior is changing. And that was at the end of 2019. And so I'm driving down the road and I'm thinking, like, what could we be called? Where I'm just some girl, like, but maybe someone wants to donate a snack or something, So I think of a name and I'm like, what if we're like an action word, like love is an action? And it was right. I mean, 2020 came in to play and everybody's protesting and it's just so much chaos and people are texting and typing about their, and I'm like, hey, how about y'all do something? Y'all actually come with me to the detention center. So we ended up naming it the Verb Kind, because love is an action. And in these, 4 short years with no money, the Lord has sustained me. I have worked at nights doing social media for companies and stuff, just so that I could do this nonprofit. And I've been offered to a lot of money to work for the NFL or bowl games or big athletes and build these brands or whatever. And I couldn't leave what God had called me to do, which is to reach these children, these babies that are 80% of them are fatherless, And so the end of the story is that today we're open in 10 counties in Florida. I've literally convinced hundreds and hundreds of people to come to jail with me. Now, I mean, the state probably doesn't like that I call it jail, but it is what it is. To come to the detention center with me didn't sound as marketable. Come to jail. Yeah. Probably the reason why I'm still single. I don't know, like every guy that I'm like, yeah, sounds great. What do you do? Well, you can come to jail with me. What? Like, what are you talking about?
Like hang out in jail.
Yeah, let's go to a first date in the detention center. So anywho, I am now the CEO of this organization that it's beyond anything I could ever explain to you. But the Lord is using everyday citizens that would never associate with a child that looks like he could, pop a cap in your butt. You know what I mean? Or you're looking at him and you're going, what are you doing in here? You don't look like you just, but they're all the same. They're literally all the same. Their hearts are the same. They're all broken. They're all needing love. And I'm grateful and just so humbled that the Lord has, maybe I'm not famous, the way I thought, which whatever, but to seek to be unknown, to be unseen is the heart of the Lord. And I'm famous to the least of these. So today I just realized that my whole life is an incredible example of how sometimes life doesn't turn out exactly the way you thought,
Mhm.
it's not the fame part, like to be unseen, like to the heart of the Lord is that we are unseen, that we only want to be seen by him and not the world, you know. It's the opposite of what the world teaches you. Like it's all about you and pursue yourself and la la la. But the coolest part is that these kids know who I am. They know the Verb Kind because we've been their family since they were younger. A lot of these kids have been to jail multiple times. And what I was saying, which is so crazy, some of these kids want to be in jail. They'd rather be in jail because it's safe. They get 3 meals a day. They have a bed to sleep in. Like that's the reality, but nobody understands that. We all want to point our fingers, but half these kids are in foster care and they live in offices of their foster care like person because they can't find enough families to take these kids in. It's just bizarre. So God's called me to this mission, and I'm around all my famous friends and they're all miserable. You know, I wouldn't say they're all miserable, but you know what I mean? Like I'm more full than
Mm.
all the people that I may want to be like, you know what, or thought I wanted to like achieve success like them. But what is success? You know,
Yeah.
like what is real success? So
Mm. That's powerful. I mean, a lot of one of the main things that I keep thinking about is Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you. They're not to harm you, but they're to give you a hope and a future. And that is what I just keep thinking about is how, you had your plans, and we all do that. We all create our own agendas in life. We think that this is how it's going to go. You get married, you have 2.5 children, whatever that means, and you get the white picket fence, and then you pursue your dreams and you become, this amazing singer, or, whatever it is. Both Jamie and I sing. And I can really relate to, um, always doing it in church, always these things, and you're pursuing God with it, and then just nothing takes place out of that. But it's because he has a different plan for your life, and it's just like when we look at him and what he has for us, it's so much better. Like,
Yes.
I know I would have been miserable if I pursued the things I wanted, and he shuts things down, and you're kind of like, why'd you shut that down? Um, but what John, my husband, and we had a business in Scotland. We were Subway franchisees and we had 5 stores. We were super successful. God shut it down and brought us back to America. And you're just like, why God? But he had a plan. So, and it's so many different things. So, I mean, in our lives, I'm living in Scotland, and it wasn't the way that we wanted to live in Scotland. My husband got denied a visa. I was like, God, why'd you bring us to Scotland? Why do I have to live here? We wanted to live in America. We were offered a job to be on staff at a church and all these things. And we end up there and we open up 5 Subway stores. And that was after we'd already been in the country for like 5 years. But God ordained our steps, which then in turn allows my husband to get a visa so that we can come back and live in America. But he had all of these things, and we had to then go through this process where God just removed everything. We went bankrupt. He took it all away because we were living the life. We had all the fancy cars, we had the fancy houses, we went on the first class, all the stuff that comes along with being successful in business. And then it's all just like the rugs ripped out from underneath you. So I relate so much to that. But now I see where he's brought us and why he brought us here and what he's doing with our lives. We had to have that experience so that we could do what we're doing right now. And the thing that I also have seen in it, and I've learned just over the past couple of years, the Bible tells us that all things work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose. And so many people stop at that, all things work together for good. And I was just like, God, I love you. And I've been pursuing you. Why? Why has our life taken this, shift? But then I started to look back and I was like, well, if we hadn't been franchisees in Scotland, hadn't had that experience, run the business, then my husband wouldn't be the, senior vice president over franchise partners for a very large chain here in the United States. And we wouldn't have the things that we have. We wouldn't be positioned where we are. So he always has. And it's just like looking in retrospect, he's working it together for good, but it might not be right at that moment in time, So
yeah, sure.
I can relate to you, Haley, so much. Give you a little backstory about me. I can relate so much about how God uses us when we think we're not worthy to be used. You know, I understand that so much because I'm very similar to you. I grew up in a Christian home. My daddy was a deacon. Mama was very involved with the church, very active, and I believed in marriage. I got married young like you. I got married at 18, and I was just giving God all the glory. And Chonda came to my wedding.
I did.
But it's like, you know, I went through a divorce, and it just, I had the big D on me, like you were saying, the big D. And he was a Christian. And I'm sitting here like, what the heck? You know, Lord, I mean, here I was a big fitness guru. I was working with pageant girls with Miss South Carolina. I worked with Miss America, Mrs. America 2008, Kim Sullivan. She got third runner up. All this great stuff. And I mean, I was the go-to fitness person. Everybody came to me for getting in shape for pageants and, you know, just getting prepared. And I met a lot of awesome people. And then my whole identity was connected to my ex. So everything I did was with him and just building my fitness program. And so the Lord is so good though. Like, he gives us beauty for ashes, doesn't he? Like, we think, like, we go through this divorce and we just feel so bad. I have 3 young kids and just feeling bad. Like, nobody's ever gonna want a woman that has 3 children, right? Like, oh my gosh, I mean, I'm in my 30s and I got 3 kids. Everybody's just gonna be like, you know, she's not worthy of the man or whatever. And but God, he had a different story. And, you know, I put my fitness to the side, even though it was in my heart and I loved it. I just put it to the back burner because I wanted to get to know myself, if you will. I wanted to know who I was. And so the Lord had to restore my identity and who Jamie was. So he restored me. I had to go through a process. And you know, now I've been married for almost 10 years now to my new husband, who is a godly man. Now I know what marriage is about. Okay. I know what a good marriage is.
Amen.
And he loved me even with my 3 kids. It was like a package deal, man. I was a package deal and he loved them. I mean, my son Uriah, he came into his life when he was 4 years old. Wow. And he loved him to the moon and back. So, I mean, God is so good. Like I said, for my story, it's like you, it's like he gives me beauty for ashes. And now I have a fitness program. I started up in September and it's a Christian program. It's called Fit Warriors for Christ. And I just go around and I teach at churches and just minister because after COVID, it was like everybody wasn't healthy, right? And a lot of the reason why a lot of people would have really bad health issues or bad side effects is because their heart, you know, wasn't healthy. And I knew all this stuff. And so the Lord just kept prompting me, you can do this. Just get out there, kind of like you, just volunteer, get out there and do a fitness program for people and get them involved. So I mean, we have grown exponentially since September, and God is so good when we're obedient to Him, like you did, Haley. God is so good. And you know what? You are worthy because look what He's doing. And He has plans for you. He's not against us, right? So I feel you, girl. Like, God is so awesome how He turns things around for us, isn't He?
Amen.
So
Yeah.
good.
Yes.
Yeah,
He's so
he is. He's amazing. And I circling back to the Verb Kind, the crazy thing about how we got connected was literally because, now you correct me if I'm wrong, Haley, but you have a student in Alabama that is looking up churches in the Jacksonville area. And it was just a spreadsheet and there were only 4 churches for Jacksonville. Now I know there's a whole lot more churches in Jacksonville than just 4, but there were just 4 listed on it. And Church of Hope, my church that I go to and work for, was on this list.
That's crazy.
It's just wild. And I'm the administrator, so I get the email and I'm just kind of like, okay, I'm going to forward this to our youth pastor and to our kids pastor because, you know, I think that this may play into their ministry and, you know, all these things. And then I was like, let me check this out. What is this all about? Because there was a video link attached. And then I watched the video and I'm just like, oh my goodness. how have I not heard about this? I've been living in Jacksonville, you know, for this is what 14 years we've been here. And I'm like, how have I just now heard about this, you know? And I'm looking at it and I'm going, I need to, Holy Spirit just prompted me and was like, you need to reach out and ask if she would be willing to share about this. And I was like, okay. So I just reached out to Noah, who I didn't really realize like what Noah's position was. And I'm just like, maybe he works for her. He's her assistant or something. And so I'm like, so I'm just like, hey, Noah, I don't know if Haley would be interested, you know?
Wow. He just got hired. He went to Liberty University. He's like, 24 and hungry. And so he's, managing partnerships and stuff and kind of just reaching out. And so his first thing for January was to reach out to every partner that was on this Excel spreadsheet that this Alabama student made. God is so crazy.
He is, and he just like connects things in ways that we couldn't make up. We couldn't plan it. We couldn't do any of that. And and then like he does this introductory email to the two of us,
That's good.
And of course, it was like all over Christmas because I sent this email prior to Christmas and I knew I probably wouldn't hear back from anybody. But one of the things that God had told Jamie and I this year was just be bold, just reach out because there's people that he wants to connect us with that have stories and ministries that are going to touch people that she and I wouldn't touch. You're going to speak to people that I'm never going to speak to. And the same thing for Jamie. And so the things as I started like learning more about the Verb Kind, I just was like, wow, God is doing something amazing. And to read, like you said earlier, 80% of these children are orphans. It's just, how is that even happening? That's the big question. And you received you guys put in all the paperwork for a grant for the fatherhood initiative. And that was last year, right?
Yes. It was a big, I mean, we had never won a grant ever. You have to have a lot of things in place to even go after a grant. And we didn't have, I mean, one of the things is an audit. Oh, well, an audit costs 10 grand and I didn't have 10 grand, So, but this fatherhood initiative, we put it together in 30 days. It was an 80-page grant that, I mean, I've never experienced anything like it, but hundreds of applications and they chose 14. And not only did we win every penny, but we won in the scoring. We won third place and we tied Boys and Girls Club. So Boys and Girls Club took first, second, and third. Of course they do. They probably pay a lot of money for grant writers, And then the measly little Verb Kind is like third, tied with Boys and Girls Club. And I just thought, you know what, Lord, thank you. Like this just shows that we're on the way to something, So.
Wow. Yeah, it's just awesome. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, you just said like measly Verb Kind, but you know what the thing is it's always small beginnings. And then God tells us, hey, don't despise those small beginnings because out of it, it's him. And that's where we know that he's the one that's in charge of whatever we're doing and has nothing to do with Haley and her name. It just has everything to do with him because it wouldn't have mattered to them who you were, where you came from. It's all about him giving you that favor. And I just looked at that and I was like, come on, let's go, Governor DeSantis. And I know he doesn't make the final decision. It's a group, but, and I just thought that was just so cool. And of course I read that bit about the, Boys and Girls Club. And I'm thinking, yeah, I used to go to them too, back in the day, hang out at the Boys and Girls Club. So they're known for years. They've got such a standing. So to come up and compete and be, third place tie with them is just, it speaks volumes to what you're doing.
Amen. Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah. All glory to him. So the other thing is you've gotten involved in the faith community events. And how did you even get invited to this stuff that the governor's office is putting on and all of that?
Yeah. So somehow it's not as exclusive as it feels, guys. So if you want to be invited, I'm kidding. One of my mentors in Pinellas County is on staff at a church in St. Pete. And she got invited to this. It's called the Faith Initiative. So basically Governor DeSantis, love him or hate him, his heart is to put God back in Florida.
We love him. So
Yeah, I'm
Oh
saying
yeah.
that's for
I'm
all
from
your
South Carolina. I love
listeners.
them.
yeah, yeah.
So this is for all your listeners out there. He is trying to put God back into Florida, and really not in faith as in all faith. Like there are 20 million people right now in Florida that say that faith is their number one priority.
Wow.
And the bizarre part is that there's like there's like 6% of 20 million of kids who are in need, like in foster care and stuff like that. And he's like, so whether you're Buddhist or Muslim or this or that, or whatever you are, or Christian, why, if faith is the number, this is what his thought is like, if faith is number one, then why are there so many kids still, why is there so much hunger? Why are we not meeting the needs? And he's really wanting to put the opportunity back in our hands as community, as faith leaders, as people who believe that, you know, in their God or whatever, which I think is beautiful because it holds us accountable. One, as Christians, we know that we should be doing that, but then also everybody else that says faith is important to them, whether you're Jewish or whatever. So I got invited to this thing, and it is so amazing to see that on this list of initiatives that these churches go after. And so during 2020, just insider, Governor DeSantis sent out this huge survey to 20,000 leaders of faith initiatives or faith based whatever, churches, temples, whatever, and asked, what group of people in your community are you serving? Check. Do you know on the bottom of the list, the two that were on the bottom of the list was foster care and kids that are incarcerated, at-risk youth.
Wow.
Everything else was like, you know, veterans, homeless, all these things or whatever. So to just see that, and then to know what we're doing here at the Verb Kind, and me being able to be a voice to say, hey, these kids, you know what, there's another part of the Bible that says true religion is to take care of what? The widow and the orphan.
Yeah.
And we're helping orphans. And people are like, you know, well, I'm really into St. Jude's and sick kids. I'm like, these kids are sick. Like they're sick in their heart. They're sick in their minds. Like these kids are sick with trauma, with fatherlessness. Like that is a sickness. And so I started getting invited to these initiatives, and it's roundtable type things where you can hear from, and you can know what our government in Florida is working on, which is so powerful. And hopefully it spills into the White House one day, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Praying.
That's what we've got to pray for. And that's really sad that children would take the back seat. And it's not that those other categories are not important. They're all important, but children are our future. And if we don't start investing in them like you're doing, then we don't have a future as a nation, because we're not taking care of our own. We're not teaching them the right ways. We're not loving them and helping them understand that there is a hope, that there is a future for them, and that it doesn't matter how many times they've messed up, that God sees them for them and they can come to him at any time. And that is just what you're doing, Haley, with the different teams. How many counties are you in again?
We're in 12, 10 in Florida, 1 in Tennessee, in Knoxville, Tennessee, and Tuscaloosa, Alabama. We've been asked to open in Fort Worth, Texas, and Lynchburg, Virginia, and Chicago, and, you know, South Carolina, Clemson. I mean, the Clemson football players want to open. Like we need money. And we need support to, I mean, it's a business, it's a ministry, it's a business, it's whatever. And it takes money to do this kind of thing. So slow and steady. I'm not rushing it, but when the Lord is ready to move, we'll be ready to move for sure.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. So do you have a story of one particular kid that you could maybe share with us that their life has just been transformed?
Yeah, we have a few stories that are beautiful, and kids get out and they connect with our mentors and they change their lives around. But one in particular that I want to share is very unique because I don't usually take the kids home. That's just not what we do. Like I don't go, hey, if you need a place, come sleep on my couch. I've done that before, but that's really not like the best idea. There was a kid, his name is Elijah. I met him in February. I walked in and we were talking about football and with the boys, and the boys were like, you should go talk to that kid in the front. And I walk up and, beautiful dark chocolate skin with like his hair. He had a blonde streak in his hair. And I said, what's up, bro? I dapped him up. I was like, what school do you go to? And he said, Edgewater High School. I said, oh, my dad went to Edgewater. I was like, you play football? He's like, yeah. And I said, hey man, if you need help when you get out, I just feel like I need to give you my cell phone number. So I gave him my cell phone number. And when he got out, and the reason why he was in there is because to minimize probation for past crime charges, you can spend time in the juvie and they'll reduce your crime. So a lot of kids will literally turn themselves in and spend 21 days in jail just to reduce time on their probation. It's just bizarre. So he wasn't in there for an arrest. He was trying to reduce his time. So anyway, he gets out, we connect, whatever. And in April, I went to his spring game, like just this past April. And after the game, I was like, can I take you home? Like, I'll take you home. You want to go get dinner or whatever? And he's like, yeah, can my teammate come with us? And I said, yeah. And so we went to Chick-fil-A, and then I dropped him off at his teammate's house. And he's like, this is where I live. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, his sister lives here and I just sleep on the couch. And I was like, the couch? And he's like, yeah. I said, where's your mom? He's like, oh, I don't know. And he's like, she's somewhere, And I realized at that moment that Elijah was homeless. He is going to this really great school, 6A school with a lot of wealthy kids, a lot of wealthy kids, a lot of not wealthy kids, but he has no home. He has no kids. He has no supervision, nothing. And so it wrecked me. It was making my stomach burn. And so I was at a family wedding in May, a few weeks later, and I was talking to my older sister, Heather. Heather lives in Northern Kentucky, right on the border of Cincinnati. She has two kids in high school. One is a senior and one is a junior. My niece is the older one. She's going to play basketball at Liberty. Wow. My nephew is a junior, same age as Elijah. He's a football all-star, best football player in the state. Loves the Lord. They both lead worship and preach at their high school like youth group, like opposite of Elijah's life, And so I'm talking to my sister, and she's like, "We'll take him." And I go, what? And I was like, no. Like Elijah back in December, he like a year ago, but when we were talking in May, I said back in December, 5 months ago, he actually got shot in the back of the head. He was in the hood doing whatever he was playing video games at somebody's house. And these kids were looking for his brother and thought it was his brother and shot him in the back of the head from the window. God saved his life. And when I met him in the detention center, he had a patch on the back of his head, but I never knew. Mm-hmm. I did not know. And so I learned, he told me when I went to his football game that night that he had gotten shot in back of the head. And I'm like, this kid, like the Lord saved his life. So my sister ends up talking to her husband. We get the judge to clear it. I put Elijah on a freaking plane. He moves to Kentucky, lives with my family, spends the summer, goes to church camp with my nephew and niece, gets baptized by my nephew and my brother-in-law, has radically changed his life around. He has a new probation officer up there. He's still on probation and trying to get through all of that. But he's radically changed. And there's a video that you can maybe attach to this podcast, but like the link or something, but it's Christmas morning. We're all hanging out and he's having Christmas with our family. And I just can't believe that 10 months before I had met him in the detention center. And he goes, Miss Haley, we should do a video for the Verb Kind. And I go, really? I don't want to exploit the kid. So I never ask him to like do anything. And he goes, no, I want to say thank you. And I go, okay, let's go outside. And he just said, hey man, my name's Elijah. And a year ago, I almost lost my life. And he's like, but God saved it. And I just want to say thank you to the Verb Kind and Miss Haley, because I don't know where I would be. I mean, and like, it breaks me so, like, it's just, I don't even know what to say. I wake up every day just like, I'm at your service, Lord. Like these children, like what would happen if I didn't do it? You know what I mean? Like, where would he be right now? I don't know where he'd be. How long would he last? Anyways, God is just so incredible. And I just can't believe that he is using this organization to do stuff like that,
Yeah. Oh, that's just, I mean, that story. I had seen a clip like baptism. I think it was his baptism. And I
Yeah.
was, I wonder what the full story is here. Because of course I didn't know, we hadn't really talked. That is just, I mean, it gets me like hardcore here because that's a life transformed because you took that step, because you were obedient to what God started way back touring, talking about all these
Wow.
things. And then he puts you in a place and positions you. And when God positions you,
That's the limit. Yeah.
yeah. And he ordains your steps. That's really what I see has happened for you and the Verb Kind. And the people that you have that are connected that go in. I mean, you're not talking, it's not just people like myself, average Joes. You also have NFL players that go in and, spend time with these kids as well. And I think it's just amazing. It's a testimony to the heart of people. And I think that more people, if they knew more about this, could really get in. I don't understand why people are afraid to get their hands dirty.
Mm.
But ministry is messy.
And it's the thing is, I think people have I know that people have a preconceived notion of what it's going to be like, oh, these scary kids are these, criminals. And
Yeah.
you walk in and they know you by name and their smiles break your heart. And you want to come back the next week because you're like, I cannot believe that these kids are locked. Like, you just can't wrap your head around it. It's a phenomenon that I think a lot of people, I've had frat boys from Auburn and businessmen who have never crossed a border of a city come in and end up bonding with these children so much. I have an amazing story of this old guy named Mike. He was 80 years old Caucasian, country guy from Ocala, goes into
Oh,
jail with us.
that's saying a lot. Ocala, like you
Yeah,
said there.
there we go. So very segregated town, like grew
Mhm.
up his whole life he's lived in Ocala. He gets saved when he was 79, turns 80. Someone invites him to jail. He comes to freaking jail with us in Ocala. He's building a relationship with these boys, these 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds. And on Monday morning, he gets diagnosed with leukemia. The doctors are like, we don't know how long you're going to live, whatever. He told his wife, he said, honey, don't post it on Facebook. Don't tell our family. The first people that I want to share with are the boys tonight when we go. And he went, and the first people that he wanted to tell besides his wife were the boys that he had built this relationship with, and told them, whether it's a gun to your head or it's a doctor's report, you are not promised tomorrow. And do you think those boys, especially the kids that didn't look like him with the brown skin, do you think that that was healing for them to know that there are actually people in this world that don't look like him that do love them? Like, it's the same thing. So what we go in there thinking we're serving others and that, oh, we're just being used by the Lord, and the Lord will literally use it to set you free from whatever it is. You know what I mean? That's what he's done for me. Like,
Yeah. Oh,
set
wow.
you free from yourself.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that is a statement right there. He set you free from yourself. I mean, and
I'm
that,
writing it down.
yes, write it down because I'm like, listen, I'm like, let's go. That's a good t-shirt.
It is.
And when God does set you free from yourself, it's, we have to die to ourself.
Hmm.
That is it's our flesh. It's all of who we think we're supposed to be. But when we lay that down and die to it, we're supposed to die to it daily.
Yeah.
Then God can truly use us. Then God can impact other people when we just lay down who we think we're supposed to be and just
I,
what we created us to be.
I just feel this in my spirit, maybe for a listener, but you know, one of the ways the world or the enemy has tricked us is telling us that it's all about us. And I just want to encourage listeners right now and people that are watching, when you take your eyes off yourself and all the crap you've been through and you serve someone else, let me tell you something, the healing that you're looking for in the counselor and the psychiatrist and the medications and the cigarettes and the wine every freaking night, I'm telling you, when you serve somebody else, God will set you free and he will heal you in a way that none of that stuff. And do I believe in counseling? Absolutely. But we love to wallow in our past. We love to bring it up. We love oh my girl, let's go do girls' night and let's talk about how bad we hate our ex-husbands. Like, no more of that. In 2024, it's over. Like, we're not doing that anymore. We are women who are going to be walking. We are people, men and women, that are going to be walking in a freedom that comes through serving others and knowing that life isn't about like ourselves. It sucks that you've gone through all that stuff, but guess what? If you just let God do it, he'll use all the things from 5 years old, whatever's happened to you when you were a little girl or little boy, all the way till now, he will use that to change the world. But not until you surrender your wallowing. We love ourselves so much. We like wallow in the self-pity, you know what I mean? But like, enough of that in 2024, enough of it. We're free from that.
I love it. I love it.
24 with Jesus.
4 and 24.
Yes. Amen, sister.
Surrender that wallowing. So many people, you hit the nail on the head, Haley. So many people hold on to their past, and until they stop living there. And like you said, start serving others. Serve other people. That's what Jesus called us to do. And love. The greatest of these is love. I mean, he's said it. And that I see in the Verb Kind. I see that in your life and the direction that he's taking you. It's just amazing. And, you know, I don't know what else to say other than leave it where Haley left it right there, because she just dropped some truth bombs on you guys. And I think that they're very relevant. I think that we need to take heed, you know, rewind a couple of minutes back and re-listen to that and apply it to your life, because God is using people like Haley who thought they were unusable, thought they were damaged, to minister to those that are really broken and really damaged, and showing them their worth in Jesus.
Amen. Amen.
So amazing. Haley, thank you so much for being on Freedom Wranglers. We appreciate you so much and sharing your heart and all the things, regardless of technical glitches. This has been amazing.
Thank you guys so much. Seriously, I appreciate you. And if you guys live in our city, or you have a juvenile detention center in your city and you guys have a heart, reach out. Like, the Lord is doing something powerful, and who knows, I believe we'll be all over America very soon.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so people can go to theverbkind.com. Is that correct?
Verbkind.com, or come to jail with me. Come to jail with me is literally spelled out on Instagram and Twitter or X and Facebook and stuff. And then theverbkind.com.
Yeah, you guys have to check it out. Watch their videos. They're powerful. They've impacted me and challenged me. And God's actually got some really exciting things that are starting to brew, you know, here in Jacksonville with the Juvenile Detention Center that I'm excited that we get to be a part of, you know. So we'll probably share that later on when those things kind of happen. So thanks so much, everybody, for listening. And that's Freedom Wranglers out.